If something you didn't work this one time, should you change your avatar? Should you change your niche? Should you change your plan? And the answer to that is maybe, which is not a very good answer. But it's a situation that happened with Fran on the hot seat that I want you to listen to right now. This is about a 15-minute conversation where we dive deep with Fran in my mentorship about a launch that he did, where even though he was promoting to men, he's gotten predominantly female clientele, and he's wondering whether he should switch his audience. And I don't know the answer to that. But what I do is I kind of have a conversation with him, and I walk him through the process of gathering more information to test some assumptions, to see whether it makes sense for him to potentially change, or whether this is just kind of a case study with not enough information in it. And so I hope that if you are a little bit perhaps unsure about where you are in your business, I hope that listening to this episode really, really helps you kind of make sense of the next steps to take to figure out whether it's worth making a change or not. Enjoy. Awesome. Fran, you are up next, my friend. So same type of thing, Fran, if you can just start really, really quick with kind of who you serve and then what you want to talk about today.
Yeah, sure. So, my avatar, similar to Victor, is men over 30, former athletes, guys who've like fallen out of shape, executives, high ranking in their company who are either have families or are starting families, and just, want to get back into the shape that they used to be in. Um, what I want to kind of figure out today is like, I'm kind of in an interesting spot because since joining OTM, actually, all of the clients I've signed on have actually been women, even though I'm like marketing to men. So, like, I have 4 women clients who are training online.
Right.
And I'm also 2 weeks removed from my launch that I did in January, that I only got about like one client from, and a bunch of calls, but just wasn't able to kind of close the calls. And like, I'm just kind of in a place where I'm wondering if Instagram or just social media in general has kind of dried up as a means of like lead generation. And I've kind of been exploring like what you and Bree were just talking about too, is like making some inroads within my community because just about a month ago, I left my big box gym to start this, like to really go on my own. Before that, I was kind of splitting my time. Now I still see people in person, but I'm focused a little bit more on building the online business. So I'm kind of just looking for, maybe new avenues for content or just new ways to generate new leads. Because after launch, I kind of feel like I'm stuck with like, where do I go to find new people, basically.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'll address like the social media, potentially dried up. I don't think that it's dried up. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity on social media. I think there's more than ever, but I just think it's a much longer game than what folks are often made to think. If you think about what you're selling, I mean, any kind of coaching relationship. The objections you're overcoming are usually not money, especially with your type of clientele. They're not really. I mean, for some maybe, but more often than not, the objections that you're overcoming is this important enough to me now? And do I trust this person to help me with the problem? And is this important enough to me now? Is the pain strong enough for me to do something about it? Is actually the hardest objection to overcome. And it's one that's never really voiced because it's kind of a hard thing to voice, because if you're saying that on a call, you're basically admitting that like you don't care enough about yourself, or you can't handle all the things in your life, which I don't know about you, man. There's a lot of times in my life where I feel like I can't handle everything that's going on. Would I admit that to somebody I just met on the internet though? Like, probably not. And so what you're doing is you're asking somebody to make a change. Any type of a sales call is a transformation conversation, is a change conversation. And what you're doing is you're asking somebody to make a change, and change is really, really hard, like really hard. And this change is going to require a lot of work and time and effort on their end. And oftentimes, when you're ready, i.e., when you're doing a launch, somebody else isn't necessarily ready. Like, think about all of the things that need to happen perfectly that have to come together away from the money in order for this person at that point in time when you decide to launch. Think about all those things that have to come together in order for them to want to start that program. I say all of this to really just hammer in the importance of follow-up.
Yeah.
And what you did with your first launch was really positive. You had a bunch of phone calls. You had a bunch of deep conversations with people. The worst thing you can ever do is say, oh, they weren't ready at that point, or they said no to me at that point. They, and to never follow up. Even with OTM, I mean, a lot of the folks that have joined this mentorship are people who weren't ready when we first spoke to them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Dan, who most of you met, Kyle, who some of you have met, a lot of their job is actually to maintain, like, call it a book of leads. And they keep up with people. There are folks who they'll keep up with 8 months to a year, where they'll check in once a month. They'll send them some resources based on where that person is at to help them move forward. So that when that person is ready to make the change, either the pain is strong enough or they're in a point in their life where, they say, well, screw it, I'm leaving this big box gym. Now's the time. We're the company that they decide to go with. So the number one thing that I would say is just make sure you keep just saying hi to these people. Hey, what's going on, man? Look, really enjoyed our conversation with you last month. You talked about this. You talked about how you were going to do that. Just wanted to check in, see how it's going. And inevitably, that person's going to say, oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, man. I didn't actually do anything about that. You're like, cool. Is that something you want some help with now? No, I'm not quite ready. I tell you what, here's an article I wrote, or here's a video, or here's something that, will just help you sleep a little bit better at night. Like it's just got a couple quick little sleep paths. Like, look, I'm here whenever you need anything. Just keep up that kind of book. Beyond that, how long were you working in that gym for? Like, how many clients have you worked with?
5 years I was at that gym. Hundreds of clients. At most of the time, I had at least 20 to 25 people I was working with at a time. So that was like, that was like my main thing, and I didn't really get into online training until really since 2020. So,
okay, what have you done to, I guess, kind of reconnect, touch base? I'm assuming like you're not going to go out and you're going to call up all of these clients and say, hey, by the way, want to trade with me? Because you obviously can't do that. And I mean, wouldn't do that anyway. That's not fair to the gym. But have you done anything to just see where these folks are at? Like, what they're doing now?
I've followed up with some of them, a lot of whom which like maybe left the gym years before I did, and just checked in with them, see how they were doing, things like that. That was one thing, because I'm working with Krista as my coach, and she recommended, and I think you've recommended on previous hot seats too, that just kind of sat with me really well, and it actually led to my last client. So like it's definitely something like there's a few people who probably slip through the cracks, like old clients whose name or contact information I just didn't retain, but that's definitely something I've got to be more of a habit in, not just and I think not just doing it once, but doing it every couple of months or something like that.
Yeah, just seeing how they're doing. I mean, I think about the relationships I had with the clients that I worked with. I mean, there were a number of people that I spent more time with than my own family for a lot of years. I mean, we got really close.
Yeah.
I knew them. I knew their families. I cared about them. And there's a couple of my clients I still keep in touch with just because I genuinely love them. I mean, I really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And so and I miss them. Um, for no other kind of business reason. I don't know. I mean, where do you want to go with this? Do you want to talk about how you're marketing to men and it's only women signing up? Uh, where do you want to go with this in the next few minutes before we jump on to the
I
final
guess I'm
hot seat?
wondering, maybe should I change the marketing, or maybe like change my avatar? Should I just make it like a broader, like anybody over 30? Because I've also spoken to some other online coaches who have told me, when I told them that same thing, they were like, oh yeah, it seems like women are, at least in their experiences, have also been a little bit more keen to the experience of it. And like, I'm not opposed to changing my avatar, but I just wonder if that's maybe a route I should take.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. What I would
Yeah.
do is I would kind of test it.
Yeah.
I mean, the world has kind of sent you a sign, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
you don't know whether it's a strong enough sign yet because the sample size is just too small. And so why don't you ask, because you still have some male clients,
Yeah.
why don't you ask your male clients and your female clients, you're like, hey, what's like what's just like your biggest question right now about fitness? What's just like the biggest thing that like bothers you right now? Or like what, you know, it could be right now, could have been before you started working with me. Ask that to your male clients, ask that to the female clients, and then just answer those with a piece of content. And then you'll create content for like men and women. And just take in feedback
Yeah.
and see what kind of connects. Because I have no idea what the answer is. I mean, I can tell you right now, like, yes, men buy training, yes, women buy training. Probably women buy training more than men do in aggregate for no other reason than men are just really stupid and don't like listening to others, even though they should. And women are just smarter and understand that there's value in learning from other people, whereas men are like, I know it all, I'm not going to ask directions. And that's just like because men are dumb often. But it doesn't mean that that men don't hire coaches. And so I don't know what the answer is for you. I think that they both would work. I don't know if you need to like make some global change to your avatar now. I mean, the fact that your avatar, or their statement and all that kind of stuff said men and 4 women signed up anyway kind of leads you to question just how important it really is also. And so, yeah, that would be the path that I would take if I was you right now. Is I would just throw a whole bunch of kind of purposeful content out there and keep track of like two vastly different audiences and just be like, you know what, there's some signs here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, might be surprised at what comes back. I'm just for some reason, and then we got to move on to Lauren. But I'm thinking about one of the things that we learned with our podcast promotion about how anytime that we used a photo of Amber or a video of Amber to promote the podcast, it did way better than like anything with me. I was like, that's a bit of a kick in the ego. All right, well, clearly we're just gonna let Amber talk more and me less. Okay, but like that's like what the universe is telling me. Thank you for listening to this conversation with Fran. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. If you did enjoy it, I've got another podcast episode I want to recommend to you. It is number 18, Building a High Profit, High Impact Coaching Program. In this episode, we go through the entire process from the marketing to the customer service to the client care of what actually goes into these high impact, high profit coaching programs. It's something that's a bit of a mystery to a lot of people. And so we kind of pull back the curtain and show you the nuts and bolts of it. And so, yeah, that's episode 18. Just go back in the app, wherever you're listening to this podcast, in the obvious choice, and select episode 18. Hope that you enjoy it. Additionally, this call that you just listened to was part of my business mentorship. If that's something you think you might be interested in, just head on over to Instagram, shoot me a DM. I'm at It's Coach Goodman, and just say mentor, and myself or my team will get back to you, and we'll just have a conversation, see if it's right for you, see if it's worth a phone call. Thanks so much for listening. Talk soon.